I'm going to get started. Welcome again to this is a kind of a mishmash of the ECE EDU Regional Joint Venture Group. We're focusing on the southern part of our region today and haven't quite done this as a TA session yet, but we're providing connections for everyone, connecting people to opportunities, partnerships, grant funding in some cases, and colleges. So I'm going to get started. And I put the PowerPoint in the chat. I'll put it in one more time, and then I have to focus on one thing at a time. And we will have a chance to meet some of our presenters as they present. Okay, there's the PowerPoint again. And then we have quite a few colleges represented today, a variety of ECE and EDU faculty. We have some deans, we have some CTE leads. So a nice mix of people. And I'll tell you who we invited so you can take a look. So again, my name's Kathleen White and welcome. Introduce yourself with your affiliation in the chat if you haven't done so already. And I dropped the PowerPoint in a few times. So this is our quick agenda. We're going to have some quick announcements. We're going to introduce our speakers as they come on board, and you're introducing yourself in the chat. And should we have time later, we can make some connections. So I'm going to do a quick overview of community college organization and landscape, and this is for our partners that are not with community colleges. I have summaries of the workforce sector needs in ECE and EDU, and then we're going to go right into meeting some of our participants who will be talking about what they need from community colleges and what some opportunities are that are coming up. So participants, I know we've been working on our PowerPoint. The real key questions are in your 5 minutes of time, think about what you need from some of the community colleges here. This is a first conversation, not a last conversation, but what kind of supports, courses, programs, what you actually need, if that makes sense. This should be about an hour for our presentation, and then I plan on staying on if any of you want to make further connections, want to ask clarifying questions of any of our presenters, have ideas, you'll have a chance to maybe have some deeper discussions after we do the presentation. Okay. All right, so one of the first let me finish with the opportunities, South Bay Coast and Peninsula regions, and I'll tell you exactly the colleges that we're focusing on, but we invited folks in the South Bay subregion, Peninsula, meaning San Mateo County specifically, the coast areas, so Monterey and Santa Cruz, and South Bay is basically Silicon Valley. You know where you are. So you can have a list of who was invited. And that was intentional because some of these funding opportunities and these programs are very regional, sub-regional, and they're very specific to certain counties. Okay? All right, again, for those of you just joining, introduce yourself in the chat with your affiliation, welcome, and we're en route here to our presentation. And I'm Kathleen White, and I do know most of you, so good to see you all on this Friday morning. So, quick announcements. Teach for the Bay, October 2nd to 5th. Everyone on this call should be interested in building our workforce in ECE and EDU. This is our regional commitment to a free virtual conference. It's scheduled for, as I said, the 2nd to the 5th. And you simply visit www.teachforthebay.com, and the program and all the workshops are there. You enroll by workshop. And some of the people on this call are actually presenting. So thank you to all of you. We have a great advisory committee representing 12 community colleges and 3 county offices of ed. So very participatory this year. Lots of great participation from throughout the region. So the whole purpose of this conference is to get our community college students, our high school students, and anyone that thinks they're interested in a career in teaching, get them information, get them fired up, help them to really hone in on a career in teaching or with schools. So please be a part of this, spread the word. Feel free to email me. Tracy Burt's our great coordinator. She can give you more information about how to get involved. But thank you so much. And thank you for all of you on this call that are already participating. If you are not participating, send an email out and spread the word at your college or your community agency or your county office, wherever you're affiliated. And you do have the PowerPoint, so you'll be able to download these links. Just a few data points. Again, we have Centers of Excellence publications for this workforce, for any of you writing grants, for any of you who want to look at very specific data around the sector and why it's important. We do have workforce needs in this sector that are critical. We also have some that are not represented because they're new and emerging, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But we do have our 2023 publication is pretty new, and you'll be meeting some of our sub-regional leads later in this meeting, and they can tell you what they can provide to you in terms of even more data. So we're here to help support your data needs as you're writing grants and as you're really looking at how this sector fits into your plans. So, and I added the Bay Area Community College Consortium data resource page here for general data on all sectors. But of course, we want you to focus on this one for today. So welcome to the sub-regional South Bay Coast Community Colleges. And these are the colleges that we have focused on. We do have participation from, we had RSVPs from every college. So maybe we're waiting for a few to join, but it's Foothill, De Anza, Gavilan, Hartnell, Cabrillo, Monterey Peninsula. You can look at the list. And again, this was very specific related to the opportunities and needs for our presenters and what they'll be talking about. We did include San Mateo County here because they are a priority for 2 of these grants, and Monterey Peninsula as well. So we're kind of taking a broad brush stroke at the south part of our region, and we're going to go on with the program. And again, I'll reiterate, our main program should take about an hour, and we will have an open period after for questions, comments. If you hear anything that you want to participate in, or you have questions to specific college reps, or you'd like to know more, you'll have a chance. Okay. All right, so before we get our speakers here lined up, let me move this so I can see the screen. I just want to set the stage, and feel free if any of you have differing opinions about how colleges are structured, you can join in. But from my experience and my observations, colleges we're all bound together throughout the state with very specific requirements and regulations and operational similarities. But individually, colleges are governed by individual elected boards. It could be your district has a board, but either way, there's local control, local priorities set, which makes it hard. Some of our partners ask the question, can we just hear about what the priorities are for all the colleges, and how do I ask a college to participate in this? And is there one person I can go to? And it does make it difficult because there really isn't one person. The BACCC, the consortium, does have groups that come together to make group decisions. However, really individually, each college and district has their own priorities and their own geographical needs. So they're very geographically centered. Colleges actually have territories that are defined, and it's both geographical and in some cases student population driven. There's obviously budgetary constraints, and we do know that this is a difficult year for all of the educational entities in California. It's been a tough budget year, but our funding in general comes from this state, but some have more local funding than others. And I'm not going to get into the basic aid issues, but the funding basically determines how many courses can be offered, how many people can be hired, the size, the depth, and the breadth of the offerings of an individual college. Faculty hiring, the only thing I'll say about that is, as someone that hired quite a few faculty in this region, I will tell you it takes a long time. So when we are looking at adding specific courses, looking for specific types of faculty to meet specific needs in a sector, at least in the college I was at, it was at least a 6-month process. Between posting and screening and all the requirements to hire faculty. In our sector, it's actually not so difficult to find qualified faculty with the appropriate degrees. There are very specific Title V degrees that are spelled out. Our academic senate has a role in kind of getting the word out about who can be hired for what sector, what the qualifications are. But hiring in general is not something you can just do very quickly. It tends to be a process. And that includes, I would say for part-time faculty, it's a long process, and it's much longer for full-time faculty. And many colleges do not have full-time faculty jobs available right now because of budget constraints. So it's, kind of a challenging time. The thing I'll tell you about scheduling is we're going to talk about, I think, some courses that are needed from colleges and some programming and some student supports that might be needed from colleges. I will tell you that, again, that scheduling is often done at least 6 months ahead of time. So very shortly, colleges will be planning their spring schedule. And so a lot of folks don't realize that there's such a long lead time for scheduling, but we have to identify not only the courses, the faculty, how many departments get what sections, but also there's all the publications around the class schedule and getting that out to the public with enough time in advance. And courses have to be published ahead of time. So there is pretty much lead time for, I would say, at least 6 months for a scheduling decision. And then course locations and formats can vary. Our colleges have everything from online, hybrid online, in person located at work sites, in person at community sites, Saturday evening. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities in our region. So if you're looking for very specific types of things, please say that. I know in our sector, our workforce tends to work during the day, and sometimes it's our existing workforce that needs upskilling and needs the next set of qualifications. So that makes the online, evening, weekend options very attractive. We also have had some recent changes to the requirements that all courses be taught in English unless paired with ESL. At the college I was at, we've been offering dual language courses for 20 years, maybe 25, maybe 30, often paired with ESL. And in our, we've had very successful Spanish language courses, Cantonese, Mandarin, um, and at times other translated languages. So that is, it's actually a component of Vision 2030 that we meet the needs of English language learners. And for this population, NECE and EDU offering entry-level courses in multiple languages is, I think, critical. So many of our entry-level staff are English language learners, and so many of the populations we're going to be talking about today would benefit from multilingual faculty and student support help. Our sector does tend to need student services and supports, and that could include everything from understanding career pathways to tutoring, to a range of student supports like counseling. Some very specific workforce needs that we have, and many of you already know this, but we have our after-school workforce that is growing exponentially with literally billions of dollars in the state budget that's not cut, still there. And really the goal is to provide after-school services for really every child that needs after school in California, especially those that qualify for free and reduced lunch. So that means a lot of hiring for after school. And many of our after school providers in our region and your subregion are really having a hard time staffing up. So that's a need. We also have a number of initiatives you'll hear about around family, friend, and neighbor and family child care, both union represented by SEIU and UDW, domestic worker needs, where their unions are supporting them to attend college and supporting their access to higher education. And we'll talk more about that later. And we also have, I'm sure all of you have heard of transitional kindergarten, but as that ramps up, 15,000 teachers needed in California. Every TK classroom needs 1 to 2 teacher aides. And it's a whole new grade that by 2025 will be completely rolled out, and we have staffing needs in that area. In our region, that's about 2,000 staff to ramp up for TK. We also have growing apprenticeships, and you're going to hear about a few of them today. And I will assure you that some of what we're talking about are our Chancellor Sonia Christian's Vision 2030 priorities. The domestic worker, the apprenticeship, meeting workforce needs are all in Vision 2030. And in fact, our sector is one of the 4 high road priorities for the Chancellor for this next year. We also have, again, a chancellor priority, but also a governor priority around dual enrollment. The goal is that every high school graduate have some community college coursework when they graduate. And in our sector, dual enrollment is a very helpful strategy to encourage students to consider the sector and to I guess, fall in love with it when you're younger and you're working with young children, and it's very gratifying, and you're helping your community. It's a good time to really focus on the sector. So good strategy. And then finally, many initiatives. Anytime there's money, there are needs for communication and collaboration. And so many of the initiatives are asking for folks from the community college to participate. And again, as a former department chair who sat on at least 30 committees in my area, I know that it's very difficult to carve out that time, the planning time. It's difficult to find release time for faculty to plan. And it's hard to even secure outside funding to do the things that you know would be helpful for your students. So I'd say colleges have limitations in how their faculty and their administrators can communicate with and collaborate with community agencies just based on time limitations. So I'm just trying to set the stage. We are going to move forward. And again, at the end, we'll have time for questions and conversations. And let's go. So what opportunities are currently available in the region? And I've clustered some of them. And when I call your name, you can come off mute and maybe just describe what you need from each other and the community colleges. Okay, so our first presenters would be Neil Martin from Working Partnerships and Adora Fisher from the Santa Clara County Office of Education. And Neil and Adora, do you want to come off?
Thank you, Kathleen.
Sure.
Hello, everyone. Neil, I don't see you, but I hope you're there. So
He is. I let him in. He's somewhere.
okay, great. So you can fill
I'm
in
here.
He's there.
Okay, great. So Santa Clara County Office of Education, as along with many other partners, have been working with Working Partnerships. And I'll let Neil talk to you a little bit more about how Working Partnerships is functioning. But working with Working Partnerships around the critical sector job quality grant. And so I'm going to let Neil kind of explain that grant and talk about the structure of that organization.
Thanks, Adora. And I'll try to be quick. There's a lot of information there, but I will try to explain this very quickly. So great to meet everyone that I don't already know. Neil Martin, I'm Economic Justice Coordinator at Working Partnerships, and we are co-conveners of the South Bay Peninsula High Road Roundtable, which is an initiative that was started as a result of the California Jobs First initiative, which is a program designed to bring stakeholders together to rethink economic and workforce development with overlaying lenses of equity, climate resilience, and job quality. And at Working Partnerships, two of our organizational goals are, improving jobs and helping to provide quality childcare in a accessible way. So these two pillars sort of aligned with the Jobs First initiative, and through this South Bay and Peninsula Hybrid Roundtable, which many of you are involved in, maybe many of you are also involved in other sub-regional roundtables from other sub-regions of the Bay Area. We have been convening a child care and early childhood education work group for the past year or so. And we are currently looking for funding to continue to, do this planning phase and develop this work group into something formal. And so Adora and the County Office of Ed in Santa Clara County have been fearlessly leading us in applying for planning grant funding to formalize a collaborative that will, in time, try to do several things. And those are essentially, to help providers become more involved in advocacy towards an ecosystem in which childcare has more funding in general. But as well as doing that, also, help provide supports and services for different subsectors within the childcare ecosystem. For example, license exempt providers, family friend and neighbor providers, new and existing FCCH and family-based facility providers, center-based providers, and also, thinking about the pathways into TK jobs. So it's, analyzing a workforce or career lattice and helping people navigate through that. And we're going to be looking for, funding for different specific implementation initiatives as we move forward in the planning process. So I think that's it in a nutshell. I did want to quickly mention that we also have a resource matrix, given that, Kathleen mentioned, I think, linked to that or referenced that, and I'll share that link in the chat. This is a resource matrix that Working Partnerships has developed for the South Bay Peninsula High Road Roundtable, and it's a working document, and we are working hard to keep it up as much as possible. But it's designed to be, I just shared it in the chat, it's designed to be a resource for diverse stakeholders going after federal and state funding. in climate equity and job quality related initiatives and workforce development and economic development. So it's a great resource, hopefully, and there's probably a lot of funding opportunities on there that maybe folks on this call are already aware of, but wanted to share that in case it's helpful. And our hopes in developing this is that if there are stakeholders that would like to apply for some of these funding opportunities, but need to partner with other stakeholders, with which they're not currently partnering and would like help getting in touch with those, we would be more than willing to try to help make those connections moving forward. And I want to respect the time. I think that's a really high level description of our proposal and the High Road Roundtable, Kathleen, but I do want to respect everybody's time, and I feel like I'm here to listen more than to talk. So I'll stop there.
Okay, and maybe Adora, you can fill in on the good jobs.
Yeah, I wanted to add, okay, so the Santa Clara County Office of Education is currently working on these 3 proposals for this project. The critical sector job quality grants, and that link will take you to a description of that funding, which was proposed by the Biden administration. And then we're also working on a proposal and plan now for the SURF Jobs First proposal, which is the actual proposal that we have been partnering with the child care work group on. However, this other funding we're hoping will support that work as well. And then in addition, we're now looking at the Good Jobs Challenge grant, and that's a link to that grant. The SURF grant and the Good Jobs Challenge grant are both due on, one is due on September 20th, and the other is due on September 27th. And so we're trying to get those grants written and are looking for partnerships on those grants, and partnership letters within the next 3 weeks so that we can get those grants put away. But the links will take you to a description of the grants and what exactly their intended purpose is.
Okay, and as someone that's been on the committee for the last year, I can tell you in summary, I have written a letter on behalf of the area community colleges from BACCC supporting workforce development in this sector, but it's up to individual colleges if you want to be more of a partner. There will be opportunities, I think, for college support, for programming, for more courses. And again, this is where it gets tough because everything you've said in terms of planning takes time and takes time and resources. And what the end goal is will take time and resources. I think we have to think of, how we can best organize our area colleges to support these really important workforce development efforts. So Adora, I'm going to come back to you. But any final words before we move to the next group?
One last thing, the Building Multi-Stakeholder Partnerships for Quality Childcare is a PowerPoint that actually describes the grant application and what we're trying to accomplish.
Great. And again, the geographic territory for this funding source is specifically Santa Clara County, San Mateo County. However, these efforts are going on throughout the region with a variety of groups. Can I ask one question? Has there been any efforts to join groups around the childcare workforce, to join the efforts regionally?
Do you want me to take that?
Yeah, please.
Yes. So, I mean, it's a complicated question, but there have been, what we've done is, as a South Bay Peninsula subregion, reached out to other subregions to invite their involvement on these applications, given that we have identified that the needs are similar throughout the region. And so we're currently in that process. I think, as Adora said, given the looming deadline for the pre-development funds, I think it remains to be seen whether or not there will be Alameda and Contra Costa participation in the Jobs First pre-development grant we'll be applying
Okay.
for. We very much hope there will be, but regardless, I think there is the intention that our work group becomes something more regional as it moves forward, whether or not we get these pre-development funds from the Jobs First program.
Okay. Well, and thank you. And I'm sure our subregion was probably the first out of the gate. So it seems to have most refined plan anyway. So, okay, thank you. And we will come back to you. Thank you both for your overview. And I want to just do a quick update on our bridge apprenticeship, growing bridge. And I do know Rosie's here. Kim is here. And I believe Charles from Launch is here. So I put this on here because Bridge is really one of the first multi-college apprenticeship efforts with Hartnell, Cabrillo, and San Jose City, all participating in shared standards and shared apprenticeship pathways. So really the goal of having these standards, and they're about ready to be approved, I think. They're on the DAS website anyway. The goal was to go bigger and to add additional partners and to have other people join Bridge. So Rosie or Kim, I know Mary had to go away. Would anyone like to fill in a little bit about Bridge?
Hi, Kathleen. Hi, everyone. This is Rosie.
Hi,
I'm
Rosie.
off. Hi, Kathleen. I'm off camera. I've been sick the last few days, so I'm gonna keep my sickness to myself still a little bit more. But just wanted to say, as Kathleen mentioned, so Bridge is a collaboration across a few different regions, including San Jose City College, Cabrillo, and Hartnell. And the idea is to continue to grow continue to grow partnership across the region with a single standard to make it easier on employers, make it easier on workforce needs, but still maintain that localized voice. This program is what we call a competency-based apprenticeship program, which means it's at least 6 months and a day, but it has unique competencies across different areas. And then it's supported by on-the-job training directly at our employer sites. So both out-of-school network as well as at the, in-school district. Kathleen, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to mute myself again here. Sorry, everyone.
Okay. So we have 3 colleges partnering, and we have, as I said, a goal to expand. And obviously with student participation, it makes sense to expand kind of with neighbors. So colleges like Evergreen and Gavilan and Monterey would be kind of good, and Mission would be great expansions for Bridge. And most certainly colleges can have multiple apprenticeship pathways. The thing about apprenticeships is that there is money for them right now. They are a governor priority as well as a chancellor priority. And it is a way to ensure that students have jobs while they go to school, and their tuition and their school costs are then free if they're a registered apprentice. So it checks a lot of boxes for our equity populations. And but it's a labor of love to get these started. Again, it's another meeting that I think Bridge, we've been meeting for 1.5 years. And so once we get this all finalized, we want to make sure that we have other partners joining in. And thank
Kathleen,
you. Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to chime in with Rosie, and I thank you for having this meeting. I think it's really critical. I do agree that planning is that critical component, including that ECE and EDU alignment work that we've all been moving forward for the last few years. And now that we're starting to see the funding for collaboration between institutions, I think we also need that support for collaboration within the institution. And I know it's hard. I know that funding is scarce. So if we can find that funding to support that, then the internal can be done, as well as the cross-institutional collaboration.
That's a
Thanks.
great point. And Kim's from Cabrillo, Rosie's from Hartnell, and this group has been become very close, this inter-college endeavor. But you're absolutely right that colleges do need support to actually have someone be a visionary for these types of programs. It's hard to collaborate, especially between institutions, but rewarding. So thank you, Kim. Rosie, did you want to?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you for your grace, Kathleen and
No
Kim.
worries. Glad
Just
you're
wanted
here.
to, thank you. I just wanted to say also, working closely with both Launch and our neighboring community colleges gives us an opportunity to to iterate our processes and look at what we could be doing better. And that's a continuous improvement. So
Mhm.
we try to borrow from Cabrillo, try to borrow from San Jose City College. I'm thankful that Kerwise has led us to the point where we started that collaboration, and now with Launch coming on through their partnership with San Jose City College, we're able to really hone in our standards to make it a more seamless process for our students and employers across the region.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. And if I didn't say this before, it is a 27 unit plus 3-unit option, 3-unit RSI, which is a
Pathway,
very
right.
quick program. So thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you.
Kathleen, can I just add one other piece to that?
Sure. Hello. Hi,
and-
Cabrillo.
Yeah, good morning. I just want to make sure for those that are not connected to this, that you know that the actual role that the apprentice would be in is a teaching assistant, right? So they're taking those units that Rosie just described, and it's a teaching assistant position, which could be in an after-school program or within a school setting. So there's different options with that.
Yeah, and there's absolutely a need to grow this because everywhere, every school district has job openings for paraprofessionals, teacher assistants, and after-school workers. Every single district. Have yet to see one that doesn't have a workforce need. So thank you, Daisha. Charles, did you sign on? Do you want to say anything about Launch? I think I saw Charles.
Hey Kathleen, so it's Justin.
Oh, it's Justin. Hey, Justin.
Yeah.
I thought I saw Launch. Good to see you.
Yeah, awesome.
I
So
want to introduce you as being Launch Network is now in Northern California. And they were a SoCal intermediary for a long time. They're now, because they're based out of the foundation, they're now in Northern California as an intermediary. And their services, I think, are really needed in our sector. So we're glad to have you. And if you want to say a few words about Launch Network and
yeah. So thank you, Kathleen. So we had the pleasure of working with the Bridge Group, doing crosswalks in terms of curriculum and in terms of the standards and taking over the standards. We are under 20 days left in terms of public comment. So if everything's clear to go in less than 20 days, we're able to start registering apprentices through DAS and fulfill any deliverables within that space. It's a lot of collaboration, and I'm glad that we're having that regional approach to have access across all the Bay Area colleges. Right now, beyond just ECE and EDU, we're working with probably 7 of the colleges in regards to trying to expand apprenticeships in that region within Bay Area. So glad to be of assistance, glad to bring on all the support that we can across Charles, Natalie, and myself to really guide and help all the programs and initiatives be successful within the space. Glad to be here, Kathleen.
thank you, Justin. We're glad to have Launch Network in your support. And we've got some great intermediaries in our region. We've got ESEPS has a good history supporting this sector. Launch was doing it only in Southern California. We want them to grow and expand because our colleges really need additional intermediary support, especially in non-traditional sectors where the faculty really don't know much about apprenticeship. It's still kind of a new thing in some of our, non-traditional spaces. So thank you. And you'll, Justin, you'll stay on if people have questions. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So Adora, you're back in, and this looks like an overwhelming slide here, but I'll preface it by saying that the Santa Clara County Office of Ed has been extremely successful in securing CAI grants for this sector. And maybe Adora, you could, I've listed your recent CAI grant awards. And maybe you can just briefly tell us what kind of partnership you might envision with some of your Santa Clara County community colleges.
Okay, great. So thank you, Kathleen. So we have quite a bit of CHI funding, and the links that you see are to our webpage that talks about the different programs that we're beginning to offer based on that funding. And then also our early education teacher development grant, which is we're slowly running out of funds with that. So looking for more funds to continue that program. And then at the bottom are listed all of the CHI grants that we've currently received. Currently, we're partnering with Mission College, De Anza, West Valley, San Jose City College, and Gavilan. With San Jose City College, we're working with Bridge as well, and being a partner with Bridge as an employer. And so hopefully some of those teacher assistants will end up at Santa Clara County is our hope. With De Anza College, for example, this is an example, we're launching a family child care, home child care apprenticeship in January, and a friends and family neighbor apprenticeship in January. We also have with Gavilan now a cohort of, it's not an apprenticeship program necessarily, but a cohort of students who are interested in getting their early childhood education units for their associate teacher permit. And then with West Valley, we're working with them around a paraeducator program that will then lead to special education credentialing. And with Mission College, we also are working with them around a couple of early childhood education apprenticeships, as well as in partnership with San Jose Library, a Friends and Family Network associate teacher apprenticeship. So we are very much reaching out to our community college partners, and they have all been extremely receptive. The interesting thing that we run across, however, which if we could somehow come together and work around this, would really be helpful in establishing partnerships. And that is every college, community college we work with, we have to come up with separate MOUs. It would be really great if all of the community college, as it relates to apprenticeships, we could come up with a common memorandum of understanding that could basically be used with any partner interested in partnering with a community college around apprenticeship work, especially as it relates to anything within education. That would be an ideal situation. As you all know, getting MOUs done is a major feat. And to have that kind of blanket MOU across all Bay Area community colleges would make a huge difference in the amount of time it takes to establish those partnerships.
That's a good point. That's a good ask. Thank you, Adora. And if there are colleges on this Zoom right now that are not partnering with you, but are in your service area, and I would even say neighboring colleges, because your Santa Clara County school districts hire, I mean, how many teacher aides and how many people do you hire in your county?
Well, alone, I have to just say with Santa Clara County Office of Education itself, we hire 200 every year or more, aides and paraeducators. So that's just for our county.
Right.
And then we have all the districts. An example is Cupertino in and of itself hires 200.
Right.
And so then you've got San Jose, right?
Yeah.
So lots of opportunity.
Yeah, probably in the thousands when you count all your school districts of workforce demand.
Definitely.
Your MOU request is, I absolutely would save time. Maybe that's a launch network thing, Justin, that could work on a universal MOU for the sector. We also have found when growing apprenticeships that securing support from represented locals has been a little bit challenging because you have to go to each union at each district to secure support before you apply for a kite grant if you're doing that from a college. So somehow working on getting standardized union support too, so that locals aren't making the decision. Their overall structure says we support apprenticeship for this sector. That would save time also, because I know going local to local has been challenging.
Definitely.
So a couple of areas where we can all work together. So thank you, Adora. Carol, we have Carol here, and Carol will describe what her project is and what she needs.
Hi, thanks so much, Kathleen, for including me.
Of course.
And I was so excited to meet Kathleen virtually a month or two ago and hear about the chancellor's interest in in creating more pathways to early childhood education. So I'm currently affiliated with the Stanford Center on Longevity, which is an interdisciplinary center at Stanford that focuses on the implications of people living longer, healthier lives. Some of those implications are very difficult in the sense of being financially prepared for that longevity. But others are really what an asset, this growing asset of people who are living well and ably into their 50s, 60s, 70s. So in addition, we've been very interested in the workforce shortage that you've all been talking about. In my prior life, up until 5 years ago, I was president of the Packard Foundation. And we were very much proponents of TK, of getting universal access to preschool for 4-year-olds. And I know that the rollout of that, as many of you have alluded to, is difficult. The workforce needs are going to be huge. And it's also creating more workforce needs in the early childhood sector, generally community-based organizations, childcare, child development centers. So in looking at this, we thought, well, this growing asset of people 50 and older could really help meet that workforce challenge. Because we know from research and from focus groups that we've done is that there are many people who had other careers or who perhaps had multiple jobs, now are in their 50s, still needing to make some money, and are interested in working with young children. And this asset could be tremendously helpful to meeting some of the ECE workforce shortages. So what we've been doing is trying to find places, school districts or others, that were intentionally recruiting this population from their community to get interested in ECE, to get experience in ECE, and ultimately to take jobs in ECE. Now, some older people are going to be interested in, and when I'm saying older, we're focused on 50 and above, are going to be interested in going all the way and getting credentialed as a full-time teacher, going on to doing that. But I think more likely, older people are going to be interested in these TA positions. And that could be a real asset, bringing both neighborhood cultural diversity, often language diversity, into the ECE setting. So we were talking to people throughout the state and ended up starting 3 very small pilot programs to look at older people as real assets in ECE. One's with the Fresno County Office of Education. The other is with Bayview Elementary School in Santa Cruz. I moved to Santa Cruz once I personally retired. And also the other is in Los Angeles, working with the mayor's office and its student advancement program in early childhood. That's in its 3rd year. And I think I'm going to say a few words about that one because I think it's close to maybe what many of you do. So the mayor's office and the mayor's initiative in LA is recruiting from the LA City community colleges. There are 7 of them, I believe. Older students who are interested, well, actually students who are interested in entering into ECE, and then providing funding for paid internships in community-based organizations over the summer. Interestingly enough, they're in their 3rd or 4th year on this, with hundreds of people going through these paid internships in the summer, but the funders limited it to people up to the age of 30. So we suggested, and I was able to, through some other contacts, raise some money to allow them to add a cohort of older people from those community colleges to join with the younger students and to go through these paid internship programs. I have on this call 2 researchers from Stanford, the psychology department lab, and also the Center on Longevity. So we've been able to do focus groups, pre and post surveys, and we're going to be analyzing that data and getting it out sometime this fall, and I'll be sure to share it with Kathleen. What I would love is for people from the community colleges on this call to be in touch with me if you think there's something to this idea. And if you have ideas about how to promote seeing older people as a real asset and someone who should be participating in these pathways to work. The other thing I would love is to be able to get 1 or 2 community colleges to try to experiment with this a little bit. The grant in Fresno, just to give you a sense of the scale, we're not talking huge amounts of money, but the grant in Fresno is $100,000 a year, and the grant in LA also is $100,000 thereabouts. And so that's the kind of scale I'm talking about, but I think it could provide a real opportunity for people to experiment with paid internships or other incentives to get older students at the community colleges enrolled in ECE, and then going on and taking jobs as paraprofessionals or in after school care, things like that. We think it's a win-win. You know, it's good for the older person. It's good for helping meet workforce needs. It brings community diversity and cultural diversity and often language diversity into the classroom. And age diversity, we think, is a real asset. So my email is on the last page of Kathleen's deck.
Yep, I got it.
Would love to hear from you. Thanks.
Thank you, Carol. And so to summarize, because this sounds, when you and I met, I thought it sounded like a great on-ramp to an apprenticeship, actually, for individuals over 50. I wonder who those people are. And, you know, we serve them in our community colleges. So it's either an on-ramp, internship to apprenticeship, it could be a cohort. But
participating apprenticeships, you
yeah,
know.
right, or pre-apprenticeship. So,
Right.
So Carol, just summarize, there is funding to kind of kick this off for 1 or 2 interested colleges in our region?
Yes.
Okay. And in the scale that you mentioned. So you're basically looking for a partner who would either, they know they already have students in this age range, and I'm sure we all do, but would like to really focus on providing them supports. And I think with the funding you mentioned, that really, it's enough really to provide some student support services and some on-ramp services. So
and some I know it's asking a lot of community college early childhood centers. They're often really busy, but to provide some help to kind of coordinate and plan that, you know. So,
to place
and
them
it
in
wouldn't
there.
have to just be for 1 year. It could be for a couple of years, you know, but the idea is that people really start to, in these pathway programs, to really don't overlook the older person as a possible real resource for helping meet some of these workforce shortages.
Says the former head of the Packard Foundation, who's now dreaming up another project. So,
Yeah.
Okay, so Carol, as people get off, if you're a college, if you feel like this is something that resonates with you, there is funding available. Carol would like to talk to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I see Kim's responded. Yeah, I've been really eager to work with Cabrillo or community colleges in the South Bay. So That's
Great.
great.
Well, we have quite a few here, so
I know, no, it's, and
Um,
Adora, I really want to talk to you too. So
yeah. So I think just feel free. You can reach out in the chat. You have this. We'll see our resource page. But thank you, Carol.
yeah.
I'm going to move to our next project. And Desiree, are you on? Did I let Desiree in?
I am here, but I think Winter McNeil is actually going to be presenting for us.
Okay, I didn't see the name, so feel
I'm
free. There you are. Okay, hi Winter.
Hey,
So
how are you?
hi.
And I added our slides. I didn't know where you wanted me to put them, so I put them towards the end. We are at number 20.
Okay. All right. Can you use anything on this slide to kick off, and then we can
Sure. Yeah. So, hello, everyone. My name is Wintour McNeil. I'm the Director of Higher Education and Benefits for CCPU, the Training Fund, which is Child Care Providers United. A bit of the history. So, Child Care Providers United is now the umbrella organization for three of the child care unions within California. So, that is SEIU Locals 99 and 521 and UDW Local 3930. And so in 2020, childcare providers, now that they've unionized, won a large win for educational benefits, retire benefits, healthcare, and more from the state of California. And so the benefits that I oversee, one of them is the tuition assistance and reimbursement that was provided by this opportunity. And we provide childcare providers, in-home childcare providers with $5,000 yearly to go back to school at a higher education institution that is accredited by the state of California. There are eligibility requirements that they will need to meet, and these include that first, they must be a licensed or license exempt provider. They must have had a subsidized child in their care within the past 12 months from January to December, if that's the year in advance. And then they must be willing to offer care to a subsidized child. And it must be related, the work that we pay for must be related to their work as a family child care provider. Now, this can also include business classes, psychology classes, and classes outside of early childhood development and beyond. But we do want them to be able to provide rationale as to how the class they're taking will support with the advancement of their business. And so really excited to be here today. We currently are working on formalizing partnerships with institutions of higher education to be able to have various institutions that we can refer our childcare providers to, because what we have learned is they want to go back to school, they just don't know where to start. And so we have monthly meetings where we allow institutions to present on their course offerings, their enrollment process, and beyond, to then prompt our child care providers to begin their journey back to education. We do have 40,000 members in California. Our meetings are well attended. And so this is a great way for the community colleges that are on the call to collaborate with us. We have an open spot for the meeting that we are having on the 25th of this month. If any representatives would like to come and present on their institution, this will be a great way to have a pipeline for our providers to enroll, specifically with it being the fall semester. So that's a little bit about us. And the more detailed and larger view of everything I just said is included on the PowerPoint slides 20 to slides 30. So that was all 10 of those slides in a condensed format. Thank you.
Oh boy, you put 10 slides in. Okay. All right. Well, everyone's got the PowerPoint link. Thank you, Wintour. And thank you, Desiree, for being on. So $5,000 a year to incentivize going back to higher education for your represented workers. Large numbers in the state. And if I can just summarize that many of this population, from what I know of other workforce studies, have had very limited contact with community colleges. Some have never gone, some have gone, a few classes, but they need student support to get back in. Many of them are English language learners. I would say in our region, the FFN and family child care group, I don't know of the represented group how many fit this, but Winter, you probably know. I would say Spanish language, English language learners, and other Chinese language learners would be our big populations here in the region. And so the coursework that's needed would be either entry-level bilingual courses, and entry-level courses that specialize in family child care and FFN care, that really resonate with people working with small groups of children in home-based settings. This is, by the way, the UDW contract, with 171 represented members in California, was co-signed by Sonia Christian as part of Vision 2030. Not all domestic workers work with children. So you're hearing about the subset of represented workers that are childcare workers. But either way, it's a Vision 2030 priority, and it's a large population, especially for individuals that have limited contact. So Winter, I think you've got all your slides in there with your contact information. You're looking for colleges that either have specialties in family child care, FFN care, entry-level courses, maybe some that are interested in offering multilingual offerings to folks who are still English language learners, and really developing a recruitment and outreach program. Your members are everywhere, though, so it's really hard to say one college has more than another, one territory. But with that, does this summarize kind of the population that you represent?
Yes, it does. Really excited about potential partnerships. Please feel free to reach out to me specifically if you're interested in bringing your college to the forefront of our next information session, which teaches them how to utilize their $5,000 benefit and also connects them with other institutions. So please keep me updated and feel free to reach out.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we have Eduardo. Eduardo, I did see you.
Eduardo's my cousin, Kathleen. This is Agustin, but thank you
Oh,
for
I'm
the invitation.
sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
Oh my goodness. Do I know your
I'll-
cousin in another life?
I'll let him know you said hi.
Yeah, please. My
No,
dear friend Augustine, and I'm calling you your cousin's name. All right. Augustine,
good.
tell us about K16 Collaborative and how we can participate.
Of course. Thank you for the invitation, Kathleen, first and foremost. I appreciate being here in the room with y'all and sharing in community. And of course, my preamble is always, when we talk about the Bay Area K16 Collaborative, is that this is grant funding, and given the state's financial woes, as folks have articulated, we know that this can be very soft and temporary. So I really want us to strike and invest while the iron is hot. And we have an opportunity, of course, to do this work in unison and also braided with a lot of the initiatives that folks have been sharing, from apprenticeship programs to community college certifications, as well as other opportunities that any of the organizations in this call are putting out there. So I say that to say that I'm happy to braid our initiatives and sustain and amplifying joint efforts. So I'll share a little bit on this grant, the focus and priorities, and update on deliverables and milestones, and then ways in which folks can get involved. So our funding comes from the California Regional K16 Education Collaboratives Grant Program. So call me Eduardo, but that is a long name for this initiative. It's a mouthful. But the initial aim came out of the Budget Act of 2021. And the idea was to help California's economy recover from the pandemic, while also trying to address longstanding social and economic inequities in higher ed and workforce participation, which we're all trying to do here. So through the Budget Act, there was an appropriation made that supports 13 regions across the state. For the Bay Area, this encumbers 9 counties, so it includes the South Bay as well as San Francisco and the East Bay. And currently we are in full implementation mode. So I got here and have served as executive director since January. So my preamble is that planning and that phase took place, and it was led by Chabot Las Positas Community College District. And the idea was to build a coalition of regional networks to develop pathways that are both accelerated and tied to occupations that incorporate work-based learning. And one of the areas, of course, is education. The other 2 are in engineering and computer science. And the last one is in healthcare and biotechnology. The 3 subregions, South, San Francisco Peninsula, and East Bay, are anchored by the CSU campuses and local partners there. So they drive the pathway creation, development, and innovation. And Kathleen, I think you're our lead up north in the San Francisco Peninsula, congregating the folks there for the education pathway. Next slide. So just wanted to share this, and folks can, digest it more when we share the slide deck, but those are our overarching goals. We're looking to expand access to early college experiences, increase equity across the Bay, and of course, promote bachelor attainment. We're working with K-12, community colleges, and university. For our K-12 sector, we're really looking at early college credit and the infusion of student supports and work-based learning throughout the continuum of the pathway development. Next slide. Bottom line, we want to tackle problems of practice and develop a learning agenda that focuses on removing barriers to degree completion. So that includes acceleration through transfer success, right? Increasing equitable participation in dual enrollment and expanding work-based learning at each and every one of the levels. So it is an intersegmental approach. And all of this is braided through dedicated funding that does go to pathway development. So we have faculty members that are on the hook for doing this work, and also employers that are in the mix. In the case of education, many of our employers are the entities that we work in partnership with already. We're looking at the education sector loosely and openly. So it does include school districts, universities, colleges, youth development centers, nonprofit CBOs, among others. And so the acceleration to degree credential, we want to support and amplify the work-based learning opportunities throughout the pathway. We see that as key. So our engagement there is to work with local school districts and entities that are willing to hire folks. Moreover, we also want to make sure that we address and connect with the CTE framework to ensure that students have a pathway from CTE over to a degree and credential if that's what they're looking for. The collaborative is following a proof of concept implementation framework that's grounded in equity. So in San Jose, for instance, in that subregion, we have determined where we are implementing the occupational pathway in education. So we're working with the 3 local school districts in the area, Eastside Union High School District, San Jose Unified, and Milpitas, by way of pathway academies. And we're identifying and then infusing dual enrollment coursework. Where there's a paradigm shift, I would say, with dual enrollment is that most of the time schools work with colleges and provide the ask. Hey, we want this class. What we are trying to do is shift that model a little bit and say, look, we developed an entire pathway. Here are the courses we recommend that get offered at these respective academies and sites, because they're tied to the focus of the academy, but also we're knocking off credit units and making sure that they're stacked and segmented so that a student, say, that takes a course as a junior knows what to take as a senior. And we're also building sort of the motivation and the support community within, meaning we want advisors to be ready to provide this information. We want parents and communities to have access to what these pathways look like and to understand the journey, if you will, from beginning to end, and for students to feel motivated throughout it. One thing to highlight is that San Jose State University was one of the first IHEs to be approved to offer the PK3 preliminary credential in the state and in the CSU system. So for us in the South Bay, that's a game changer. We want to make sure that we amplify the different roads in which students can complete it. So we have about 4 different ways in which this could happen. So a student can start with the respective major. They can also add or complete an ADT and then transfer and finish a bachelor's that is associated and related, and also do the integrated format in which they're completing the credentials simultaneously with the bachelor's as well as an MAT, a master's in teaching. So we're looking at all of these options. We're building communities of practice that then allows us to regionalize this effort. So if San Jose State has determined it, we want to be able to take that proof of concept into another direction. So again, building pathways for sustainability. I will share a link real quick and then I'll answer, Kim, your question. And this one applies to anyone who's part of an IHE or an educational segment. We have a college and career exploration fund that we are dedicating dollars through UC Berkeley Center for Educational Partnerships. So if folks are looking for money for work-based learning opportunities or for field trips into towards higher ed exploration and experiences, please complete the link. It's a very short quasi RFP that we're reviewing within, and that gives you a chance to also partake in the dollars and use that money towards efforts that you're pursuing. It doesn't matter if you are working with us currently or would like to work with us. I mean, just apply for the money and take advantage of the opportunity. Sector priorities, Kim, for Bay Area K-16 are engineering, computer science, that's one under STEM. We have healthcare and biotechnology, that's the second one. And then the last one is education.
And thank you for answering that. And when I've made inquiries, my understanding is, for example, North Central Coast is not focused on education. They're focusing more on the
You're saying there locally, your collaborative isn't focusing on education.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, the way we see this work is this is a grant. I know folks have priorities and projects, but Kim, we can touch base offline and maybe perhaps explore ways to work together. Something I learned from Kathleen all the time is that we can always make linkages and we can always associate ourselves with entities that exist and that are built to last, so to speak. So I'm certainly happy to even share the blueprint on what took place in San Jose. And again, back to our proof of concept model, if you want to replicate that in your region, I'm happy to sit down and ideate with you on what that might prospectively look like. And then part of the sort of the enhancement is then linking with this entire consortium of folk that are in this call too. So how else can we braid our efforts together? So I'll put my email on the chat and just feel free to reach out. I live in San Jose, so the South Bay is near and dear to me, and let's just talk and see what we can come up with.
Thank you, Augustine. And I do think there's opportunities for collaboration. So any of our partners that are interested should contact you to learn how, and especially about that fund that you're offering. Maybe you can contact him about additional funding. And, you know, Rosie reminded me that there is an Eduardo at Hartnell who was at Hartnell. So
Trying to save you. Trying to save
him.
you, Kathleen.
No, he's on my he was on my email list, so I'm not imagining.
Actually, at Gavilan. I don't know
was
if
it Gavilan? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if Sue Sweeney is on the call, but
Yeah. That's
yeah.
funny.
Small world.
Okay, let's move on. We've got one more presentation, and then you can ask questions in the chat. We'll have time to talk a little bit. Chris Allen wasn't able to be here, but I do know that Foothill is applying. I think that Aaron joined in. Aaron, do you know anything about the Strengthening College Grant, Community College Grant?
I don't know what our project is on that particular one. So,
but you are applying.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, and you can contact Aaron. I think I have Chris on the resource page, but that's a very large grant and should allow for some collaboration, I would assume. Do you know anything else about where we are in the process, Aaron, with your grant?
I'm sure it's in my head somewhere.
That's
I just
okay. It's a
I
day,
I
it's a
got
day
kind of
before
put
the
on the
Labor Day
spot here,
weekend. I
so
understand.
I have to sift through a little bit. I'm trying to remember specifically what we're planning to do there, but so I can certainly have a conversation with Chris. I just saw him yesterday, and I can send out a little board to everybody on the email list on what
Oh, that'd be
we're
great.
doing. Yeah,
Thank
we'll
you.
do that.
Thank you. And just in Foothill's defense, they are on break right now. So you guys, your semester doesn't even start for a while. So thank you, Aaron, for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
I just want to add before our last slide that Perkins funding is available, or there is a prioritization of Perkins, the use of Perkins. We had a guidance memo from Dean LaCandice Ochoa. I'm linking to a 2022 memo that Perkins can be used for dual enrollment educator preparation programs and to support and implement CTE educator preparation programs. So there's a much more lengthy description about use of Perkins 5, but educators and teacher preparation is now spelled out. It's in there as a priority, and that's another fund source. So just, and then finally, I'm not sure if Bronwyn or Michelle were going to do this. This is kind of our last one, and then we'll open it up.
Thank you, Kathleen. Good morning, everyone. I'm Michelle Peregrine. I'm a regional director with the Bay Area Community College Consortium. I'm joined today by my colleague, Bronwyn Moreno, who's the sub-regional director for Santa Cruz Monterey Bay. We're going to be talking about regional joint ventures today, really briefly. And then I also just want to mention that we have two other sub-regional directors on this call. Luis Ruelas represents Silicon Valley, and Jeff DeAndrea represents San Francisco and the Peninsula. So if you are interested in reaching out to your sub-regional directors for the BACCC at any point, those are your points of contact. So I'm here to talk a little bit about regional joint ventures, specifically one that's taking place in Santa Cruz Monterey Bay. But before we dive into that, I just wanted to give a little context about regional joint ventures. It's a funding opportunity that's managed by the BACCC. Its purpose is to provide seed funding for regional projects that are innovative and sustainable. The intention is to really encourage colleges to reach out to other colleges. It could be a neighboring college, or it could be one all the way on the other side of the region, depending on what the challenge is that you want to address, and to join forces and collaborate on addressing that challenge together. The idea is to support the startup costs of the project, with the intention that participating colleges would sustain it after the initial few years. And how they sustain it is really up to them, but oftentimes they use regional strong workforce funds to do so. As the name applies, one of the eligibility requirements for funding is to include multiple colleges. So it has to have at least 4 colleges that endorse the project. And we also encourage partnerships with other educational institutions, K-12s, UCs, in addition to any industry partners. This top header is linked to the RJV website, where you can get all the information about applying and about the timeline. I'm excited that this most recent round that we awarded over the summer included an ECE EDU project in the Santa Cruz Monterey Bay area. It's led by Hartnell, and it's partnering with Gavilan, Cabrillo, and Monterey Peninsula College. The aim is to create transparent, streamlined pathways in the education sector within the subregion. Of course, there's a specific project manager, but it's also being governed by a task force that consists of representatives from the local K-12s, community colleges, UCs, and CSUs, who plan to collaborate on creating those clearly articulated paths to permits, certifications, and credentials. A couple of things that really stood out to me in the proposal is that they intend to create cross-institutional data tracking system, as well as communication protocols between the various institutions, and an equity-centered sub-regional implementation plan, with the idea that that could serve as a model for other colleges across the region that might be interested in doing this sort of thing. This also links to the full proposal if you're interested in getting into the details. And the pumpkin here is to remind me to share that they're planning to kick off the project next month. Excuse me. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bronwyn, who's going to talk a little bit about how this all came together at the sub-regional level. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Excellent overview, Michelle. And I just wanted to add that the colleges in the Santa Cruz Monterey Bay subregion, Cabrillo, MPC, Hartnell, and Gavilan have a very strong commitment to collaborating amongst themselves. So I shout out to the folks who are here today. I think all the colleges are represented. And when this project came through the application process, the subregion was very supportive of the project. And not only did they sign on as partners, but they committed matching funds through the subregional budget that is offered for subregional collaboration. And with this explicit focus on supporting English language learners in this pathway, because that has been identified as a priority population in our subregion amongst all 4 colleges. And so we're excited about this project as a vehicle to move the needle for our students and families. So thank you all for the support.
I'll just mention that we have several colleagues on the call that are involved in this one way or another. I don't know if Kim is still on at Cabrillo, but I know she's been involved, and Rosie at Hartnell. So just wanted to mention if any of those folks wanted to chime in and share more, that would be great.
And Desha as well.
Oh, Desha, thank you. And Myra, I don't know if Myra's been involved, but I know she's EC faculty at Hartnell. Yeah, the subregion's representing. Thank you.
So the summary of this is that strong workforce subregional projects could help solve funding, could help solve some subregional needs, and the need for collaboration and communication subregionally in this sector, right? And that might be a good strategy for colleges to look at if they want to hone in on very specific geographical challenges and communications and needs. You know, when Odora was talking, and you know, I just know the size of the Santa Clara County Office of Ed and all the districts they represent. I'm going to say 20, in the high 20s, I think 30 districts, I don't know. But, you know, to just sub-regionally try to focus on communicating with your dual enrollment partners would be just amazing. Very hard to do that as a region, but maybe sub-regional funding is a way to really look at geographic needs. So Michelle is your contact, Bronwyn is your contact, and you all have other contacts. Some of them are on this call for the next round, right?
Yes, if you go to the website, there's a timeline there. It's for the most recent cycle, but the next cycle will very much mirror the timing that's there. So we anticipate opening applications again next spring.
Great. Okay, so we're going to stop sharing, and let me just show you kind of to think of what colleges need to partner with some of the folks on this Zoom. What kinds of needs are there to be strong partners? What do we need? What do we need to learn more about? We don't have the time I thought we would have, but here's the resource page with all the emails. Winter is not on here, but Desiree is from SEIU, so you can reach out to her. And I'm going to stop sharing. And we have a little bit of time. I've been trying to keep up with the chat. Does anyone want to, oh, well, look at the clock. So Any questions? Does anyone need emails? Does anyone need information? Was this helpful? Just come off chat. We have 5 minutes, so come off chat, yell.
We have the loved it in the chat.
Okay. Well, I'm assuming through the chat you are making your own connections. I would urge you then to save your chat. I will, let me put the PowerPoint. Thank you, Michelle. She's refreshed Augustine's name into the PowerPoint as opposed to Eduardo. And I will refresh that. And I think you should all be able to find each other. So I'm gonna, if there aren't any questions, I'll stay on for a little bit longer. If any of you want to make connections, many of you have already been emailing each other. Any other last comments?
Kathleen, this is Rosie. I just wanted to say I appreciate the BACCC bringing us all together because it is a new space and we're trying to work together and move far and move cohesively together, and it does take time. So I appreciate everyone's patience. Personally, having the networks of like launch of the BACCC and our fellow community college partners, it helps us hone in on our processes. It is a continuous improvement. And I really appreciate that and the grace. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kathleen, do you anticipate doing any kind of follow-up email or?
I'm going to just send the PowerPoint out via email also, because some folks wanted to come and they weren't able to. And I also have the recording, which I'll be stopping shortly. And I post all the recordings on the BACCC sector website, so people can go back and review. My job here was to make, I'm like a marriage, what do you call them? You know?
Matchmaker.
A matchmaker. Yeah. So happy to be the matchmaker. But I also do attend many of these organizational meetings. So if anyone needs info, just email me.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all for being here. And I'll leave this on in case any of you have some last questions. Thank you again.
I think that's it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's everybody. Oh, Melissa's still on.
Let me know if there's anything, Kathleen, that you see as a follow-up that I can support you